quick disclaimer before we start. The whole purpose of this video is to just provide additional context and I guess a bit of discussion surrounding the requirements behind the Celes Solo run. And this isn't meant to be any sort of argumentative video with regards to the person who made the comment. In fact, I would actually like to thank the person who made the comment because he did raise a few relevant points as well. And I guess one of the take-home messages that I want to leave everyone with is that there are many factors that come into play, especially when you're doing a solo run with any character. And there's many things that could affect the outcome of the run, which includes stuff like your high armor, your BT plus, your character bots, what summon passives did you have on the character, what passives did you unequip, your call ability, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of things that you can mix and mesh together. And I always recommend, and in fact this person actually did also do some adjustment, but I always recommend to adjust if you find that you're running into issues and the run isn't working out for you. So thanks Sigma is greater for your comment, but I want to take this opportunity to at least clarify some of the stuff on the video. Now, first off, his comment was made as a reply with regards to the pinned comment I made on the video comment section. And just reading out what I said, what I mentioned was that for those lacking HP artifact passives, just go directly into BT mode on Celes's first turn. This will allow you to set up your traps and her BT aura, which helps you survive the first round of charge raise. The reason why I mentioned this is that in my solo run, I did equip 3 HP 1020 artifact passives, and this allows me to survive the first round of charge raise, and it allows me to go into BT mode later in the run rather than earlier. And the benefit of doing that, of course, is that you get to stretch out the BT aura to last longer. Now, if you don't have HP artifact passives, the first 3 charge rays that you eat will likely kill you. You might be able to survive with 1 HP artifact passive, I'm not too sure. I did not test that out. But what I mentioned here about going directly into BT mode on Celes's first turn is actually true, and it will work. I will show a video of that pretty soon. By doing so, of course, the drawback is that your BT aura won't last as long, and you obviously will need to pop your BT plus to refresh a BT aura later on in the fight. But otherwise, it is doable without HP artifact passives if you pop BT mode on Celes's first turn. Now going to the comment, so the comment I received was that this is massive misinformation, and this person spent hours, emphasis on the word hours, over the past couple of days testing with BT HA plus 0. Not so sure what that means, but I assume it means that his BT is 0 out of 3 and his high armor is also 0 out of 3. I'm not so sure why he assumed that it is doable with a 0 out of 3 BT and high armor. I actually did not make reference to that in my comment nor in the video description. But I guess while on this point, it might be possible with a 0 out of 3 BT, but in that case, you probably will need HP artifact passives, because obviously in that case, you won't be able to press the BT plus button because you won't have it. And so you are very limited in the duration of your BT aura. And that means that you need to start your BT mode later rather than earlier in the fight. And that means you need HP artifact passives to survive the first round of charge raise. Now, if you do have your BT fully maxed out, you will have access to double the duration of the aura due to having the BT plus button to press. And in that case, you can probably get by using BT mode on the very first turn, very first Celes turn at least. Now, the first bullet point, if you do not have HP artifact passives, you will not survive the opening charge raise salvo without Alexander summon, period. So throw that stuff about trying to use Chocobo summon to win the force gauge race out of the window up front. Now, this is actually not true. And again, there will be a video right after this section to show that it is possible. Like I said in my comment, right, just scroll back to the top. If you don't have HP artifact passives, my recommendation is to go straight into BT mode on Celeste's first turn. The BT aura that Celeste has also has a HP damage taken minus 30%, which stacks with all her other defenses and allows you to very comfortably, very comfortably survive the opening charge ray salvo. You don't need Alexander summon at all, and you don't need any HP artifact passives if you have her BT aura up. If you do equip Alexander, besides the substantial damage you miss out on trading 30% max brave for 15% HP, it still does not guarantee that you will survive the opening salvo. It is completely RNG, with me seeing a 50% success rate at best. Even if I survived it, it leaves me less than 20 HP after the third blast. Now again, that's the whole reason I actually agree with this comment. If you don't have HP artifact passives, and if you don't have a BT aura, then yes, you'll likely not survive the opening salvo. But again, reference to what I mentioned, if you don't have HP artifact passives, what I recommended is to go into BT mode right at the start, because it is the BT aura that helps you survive the opening salvo. And I don't think I mentioned that just save your BT mode until later without artifact passives. Anyway, moving on, if you do make it through the opening salvo and move to use a BT phase on turn 3, it does not ensure that you wind up landing on 100% force gauge on turn 4 with the enemies just short of it. Again, emphasis here, I did not say to use BT mode on turn 3 without HP artifact passives. My recommendation is to use it on turn 1, or Celeste's turn 1 at least. So I have, on the other hand, seen it happen countless times that the enemies hit 100% force gauge at the same time as you, and of course gets to auto-activate first, killing the run. This is completely, emphasis on the word completely, up to RNG, that you get exactly the correct number of off-turn hits you need from breaking the enemies in the correct order during your BT phase. Now this isn't exactly true. You can consistently win the force gauge race. There is still a little bit of RNG involved, I admit, and I think there are several comments in the comment section as well saying that sometimes they do win the force gauge race, but the RNG isn't as bad as it seems. At the very least, it's not so bad that you have to reset for countless of hours in order to win the force gauge race. It is actually more likely that you will win the force gauge race rather than the bosses. And again, I'll cover that in the run to show how it's done. Next bullet point, the one time I was able to get to happen that I had the same Cyan Call equipped and discovered that my BT aura ran out too soon. I could not survive the next charge ray salvo. And I don't disagree with this, it's fully accurate. It's very difficult to survive 3 charge rays if you don't have the BT aura. But the whole point is to kill the bosses but before you run out of force time and BT aura anyway. And if you have BT 3 out of 3, you will be able to do that because you have double the BT duration. If you don't have BT 3 out of 3, then obviously with limited BT aura turns, you have to be very careful about your BT, starting your BT later rather than earlier. And like I said, in which case you do need the HP artifact passives so that you can survive the first charge ray attacks without going into BT mode. If you start the BT phase any earlier than turn 3, you definitely will not be on the same pace to win the force gauge race, and you will obviously run out of your BT aura sooner. Now I will prove that this is not true. You can start your BT phase on turn 1 and win the force gauge race. You will obviously run out of BT aura sooner, there's no disputing that, but that's where the BT plus comes in. And really, I think that the gist of it is that if you don't have HP artifact passives, you will need to start BT mode on turn 1, and you will likely need to have BT plus to prolong your BT aura. And if you don't have HP artifact passives and you don't have BT plus, then obviously the run is going to be significantly more difficult. it's very similar in concept. Say, if you have a very complicated piece of machinery with 3 different gears, if you are missing one gear, you can probably, overwork the other 2 gears to make your machine work. But if you try to make it work without 2 or without 3 of the gears, then obviously you're going to have a more difficult time. And trying the run with no HP artifact passives, with no BT plus, is going to be extremely challenging. And I did not say that you can very comfortably do the run without BT plus and without HP artifact passives. And so next point is you pretty much have, emphasis on the word have, to have one or more of HP up artifacts, BT plus, Alexander Summon plus Gladio. Well, yes, you will probably need at least one of it. And I think this goes back to my concept about the complex machinery. If you don't have all 3, then it's pretty difficult to do a solo run. But if you have HP up artifacts, I mean the run that I did proved that it is doable. If you don't have HP up artifacts, then you can still do the run, and again there will be a run right after this comment section to show how it's done. But you likely need to have a BT plus 3 to do it. I did not ever say that you can do without all of it and still complete the run successfully. And you still better get comfortable to do a lot of resetting. This really isn't true. In fact, the recording that I did after this was my first 2 attempts, and it was successful on both of those first 2 attempts. So I did not have to do any reset at all to change the RNG or anything like that. It was actually pretty consistent. There is, I guess, still a very small chance that you can lose the 4th gauge race, but like I said, it's not as bad to the point where you need to do a lot or hours of resetting. And to top it off, final point is that I don't know why you people, I guess he referring to content creators, refuse to be more forthcoming about these critical issues with people and then follow it up with just completely off the cuff suggestions to people when they point it out after they hit a wall trying in vain to emulate. This is not plug and play here at all. Well, I don't really know what it refers to as off the cuff suggestions. I suppose it refers to, again, my pinned comment, which says go into BT mode on Celeste's first turn. So because of this, I will make a video to prove it, and it's coming up right after this. But again, everyone's characters are built a little bit differently. It's going to be very challenging for content creators to do a whole laundry list of all the different requirements, such as having HP up summon passives, having your character's bots max, having 3 out of 3 blue high armor, having BT plus 3 out of 3, and ABCDEFG going all the way down. It's going to be a very long list of setup, and so I think there has to be some leeway here to at least understand that if you are going to do solo runs on Shinryu stages, your characters will more or less need to be maxed out. And if it's not maxed out, some stages might still be doable, but you really have to understand that the more pieces that you are missing on your character, obviously the more challenging it gets. And I don't think that it is worth mentioning that every single run. I think that's really what most people will understand. And making all these suggestions, yes, some of it are pretty off the cuff, as mentioned here, but I really won't have the time to test every single suggestion that I make. And the whole point of making all these suggestions in the comment section is to really try to help people adjust if they're missing 1 or 2 pieces of the setup. And I don't want to always have to make a disclaimer that the more pieces you're missing, the more challenging it is, because again, I think that's pretty straightforward. So anyway, this is like 15 minutes long already, which is far longer than I expected. Before going into the video, again, thank you for making the comment. And to everyone else who may be seeing this, please don't put flaming comments or anything like that in the comment section. I really do appreciate feedback like this, because it helps to give everyone else more context into the run, and it at least gives me more opportunities to try to test out and maybe even see what other adjustments can be made if you are missing bits and pieces. So with that said, thank you so much, and I'll go straight into the video to show how it's done if you have to pop BT mode on Celeste's first turn. So first off, just to show the setup, as I mentioned in the video description as well as my original run, I removed all buff boost speed up and the shine age light. And as you can see, with regards to the artifacts, I did remove all 3 HP artifact passives and instead equip the standard, attack and max breath artifacts instead. This brings down Celeste's HP to roughly 18,000. Now the video is going to be just one long continuous segment. It is not cut or spliced in any way, shape or form. There are going to be parts of the video where I freeze the video just to be able to fit in the comments, but that is the only editing that I made on the video itself. So if you have removed the all buff boost speed up passive on Celeste, she will always start last and the 3 bosses will always start first, and that way they will always use the first turn using maneuverable destruction, which means that the charge rays will be coming up next. And as I mentioned in the comment section, my recommendation if you don't have HP artifact passives is to go into burst mode. What I did here really is to just break the enemies in order so that Celeste gets another turn coming out of a BT mode. I did not set any summon on this run because I actually forgot, but I guess that's enough to show that Alexander's summon isn't needed, and if anything I'm not even benefiting from Brother's max breath plus 30%. So first round of charge ray salvos and no problem, it's like I'm not even anywhere close to dying. So you definitely can survive if you go BT mode on Celeste's first turn. And due to how little damage that she actually takes, I don't think there's any RNG involved here. You can do this 100 times and go BT mode on her first turn and always survive the opening charge rays. The next part of the video really is to show winning the force gauge race, because it is very possible to win it even if you do BT mode on her first turn. You don't need to wait to do it on her third turn, and it is actually pretty consistent. There is still a little bit of RNG, there is probably a very small risk of losing the race, and you may need to reset, but you shouldn't need to reset for hours. Like I said, the RNG is actually on your side. As long as Celeste is built correctly, you should more or less, I mean I can't really put an exact percentage here, but just as an estimation, maybe 80-90% of the time you should be able to win the force gauge race. Now how do I prove that with just one run? I mean, anyone can say maybe I just got extremely lucky and I won the force gauge race on this run, but it won't happen again. Well, to prove that, what I'm going to do is to do 2 different runs using the exact same strategy of going into BT mode on her first turn, and I did consider doing a third run, but I think that's really overkill. I think 2 consecutive runs is enough to prove that you can consistently win the Force Gauge race. And again, these are 2 runs back to back because I just left the recording on. I did not do 2 separate recordings, and I think 2 consecutive runs that are successful in the Force Gauge race should be at least enough evidence to show that it can be very consistent. So it's getting pretty close, as you can see, but Celes is still slightly ahead in Force Gauge, and if done correctly, you should reach Celes's turn just about 1 to 1.5% off your own Force Gauge, after which you can just use either AA or your base call ability. I would recommend using the call ability so that you don't burn off 1 precious turn of a BT aura. So in this case, I just use the Cyan base call, and bam, I'm at 100% force time. I've won the Force Gauge race. So it is not literally impossible to win the Force Gauge race. You don't need Alexander's summon. At this point though, Celes's BT aura is running low because she did it on her first turn. So I think she's at what, 4 turns remaining of BT aura. So you will definitely need to refresh a BT aura. Anyway, let me just reset the run. And as you can see, this is a continuous recording. So I'll just redo the run again just to see whether I can win the race, the Force Gauge race. This time around, since I've already done all the comments, what I'll do to keep the video duration shorter is I'll speed up this run. But again, there is no splicing or further editing of the video beyond that. So BT mode on Celeste's first turn. Now as I'm going through the motions here, granted both of these runs isn't a full run because I cut the video after winning the Force Gauge race, but after you enter force time it should be pretty straightforward as long as you refresh a BT aura. And the main reason why I didn't do a full run is that it's going to be an extremely lengthy video. As it is, it's already 25 minutes long, which is way longer than what I wanted it to be, so I decided to just cut short the video. %98.7% Force Gauge, Cyan base call, 100% Force Gauge, and boss is at 98.6. Now can this be done without BT 3 out of 3? I don't think so because you won't have enough BT aura duration to last. But I did not say that you can do BT mode on first turn and do this whole run with a 0 out of 3 BT. Anyway, I hope this video helps to give further context on the Celes Solo run. With that, take care and see you guys in the next event. Bye!